Welcome back again to the Dear Global Leader podcast. This is the part two with Leila Elif Aksoy. So you were there a week ago and we discussed everything about what does it mean to lead a country and be the right hand of a country manager. So for the people that didn't listen to the part one, you had a different journey, but it was mostly in sales. You were ex-CISO sales manager, and now you are deputy country manager at Salesforce in Denmark. And we get to know each other because I went to a lot of the event where you were a speaker. So very inspired. And now you're back on the podcast. So it's super interesting. And right now, in the next 30 minutes, we'll discuss a bit more what does it mean to lead a big and complex organization. And we will dive into some of your leadership lessons.
Looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, super to have you back. I actually wanted to start the question with what was one of your hardest decision you had to take because you were maybe in a situation where you were a sales leader or country head where you knew that in the room you had to do that, but a lot of people outside the room didn't know the constraints and maybe couldn't understand.
I've had a couple of those in my career, I have to be honest. And I think the hardest part is when you need to make a business decision that doesn't necessarily align with the people that you need to make that decision about. And that can be really tough, and it can definitely affect you as a person and as a leader. But I often look back at it and I think as well that it should affect me. And if it doesn't affect me, then maybe I shouldn't be in leadership positions. Because sometimes you have this feeling that, okay, leaders, they're just tough. They just make this decision. It doesn't bother them. And some leaders, they really doesn't bother them. But for me, it bothers me for sure when I know that it goes against people that I don't maybe believe should be in those kind of positions, or you need to make a transition in the business and it doesn't match with their career
Mm-hmm.
trajectory.
Yeah, I think in the part one we discuss a lot about your sensibility towards people leadership and taking care of the people. So I sense the same thing. For me, even at my level as an indirect leader, it's sometimes hard for me to understand. I mean, I usually call my leaders mentor and I tell them, look, I need to understand because from my side of the road I don't understand, but I know you have a right. You have they need. I was not in the room. I need to understand what happened, and
Yeah.
then they explain to me what are the levers and what also would happen next with this decision. And usually there is a comeback afterwards, and it always helped me to understand. And I'm always cherishing to understand. We were discussing about cascading information. Unfortunately, you cannot be transparent on everything,
No.
but sometimes it helps to understand if you understand why this decision has been made and what was also the option B, you understand that option A was maybe the best path.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like sometimes you also need to make it, I think it's okay for a leader as well to show that this is also a hard decision for them to make. And
Yeah.
it's not personal. And you need to take the personal things out of it. And that can sometimes be hard because you do become personal with many of your coworkers, right?
Yeah.
Many of your colleagues. But I often feel like as well that people would have connected with me a year after and said, okay, Leila, it makes sense. I understand it. I was bitter at the
Yeah.
time. It didn't feel right, but I understand it now. And sometimes it's just people just need time as well to really process what happened because they didn't see it coming for some reason, right?
Oh, yeah, I think from our side of the road, we never see it coming. But then
No,
after, as you were saying, when you look back, the pieces you were actually, there were some flags that I wouldn't want to see. And then at
no.
some point things happens.
Yeah.
I had maybe on a different note, questions. I remember a bit of your past. I mean, what you could share on some of your, um, public speaking. You had the chance to lead different team with different generation, different culture,
Hmm.
nationalities, and so on. What I mean, how did you lead different when you have like this diversity, and what it taught you?
I think what it really taught me is fundamental respect for every person and every perspective that comes is I value every perspective that I get. I think for me, it's really much learning. Every person is very individual and they
Hmm.
act individually and they have their own Some people are measure, like, even though we measure everybody the same, let's say their KPIs are the same, but what is important to them is very, very different. And
Mm,
how you motivate them is very, very different. So
yeah.
you need to be mindful of that. It's not only an age thing or cultural thing, it's very much a personality thing as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very mindful of what do I say, when do I say it, what are the words I use with one person versus another person. Some people, family is really important, other people, money is really important. Whatever is motivating you, that's what you need to speak into. So I feel oftentimes leadership is very much more like a coach, like asking the
Mm,
right questions, making people see themselves or get the ideas themselves. You just need to be
mm,
making the space for them to be open to having all kinds of dialogues.
mm. You also said like see themselves, they need to come out to the right answer themselves. But also, I think being seen is
Yeah,
also a job of the leader,
yeah.
like that you can also say like when they did a good job or coaching them towards, it's okay, you are improving. I see your
Mm,
potential, what you were saying
mm,
a bit earlier. I think it's also something that is key, at least in one of my, I mean, all of my best leaders, they were their role was also to show you that it's okay, you're maybe nobody in the organization, but you're nobody for me. I see you, like,
yeah,
and then that you're like, oh, this person keep an eye on me, and then
yeah,
you're even more motivated because you want this person to feel proud
yeah.
of
I
your own
complete,
development.
yes, I completely agree. And I think that is something in leadership, if you're mindful around that, and if it's the same, even though just noticing people when you walk past them. Are you
Yeah,
saying hi? Are you smiling? Are you looking them in the eyes? Those kind of things, again, going back to you feel seen, right?
yeah.
They know who you are. They're acknowledging you. And I think those are really important factors.
Yeah, totally. And I wanted to ask you also, because I remember, from your previous career when you were in Cisco, I think you had the chance to lead, maybe teams where people were older than you while
Hmm.
you were younger. How did this go for you to also be credible? And also some people, and it doesn't need to be age only, it can be whatsoever attention, but some people that are here on the job for longer, that can be a bit defensive because they can think, look, I have a new leader, they will want to change things, but I think that it should be done this way. How also you were saying about motivation, and how did you motivate these types of teams when
I actually in a situation now as well where majority is older than me. So I think when I started out, it was very much you also doubt yourself as a leader because they have much more experience, or will they respect
mm,
me? There's things
mm,
like, am I a female? Would that be like? There's many things where you doubt yourself,
yeah,
and when you then get out to reality, it has no legs to go. Like it has no, it doesn't have any facts.
mm,
And people often will, like I said before, if they feel that you are true to yourself and they can stand for who you are as a person, they would follow you. If they trust you, they'll follow you. We might not always agree. It doesn't matter. But like I can get as
mm,
equally challenged from the young people in my team than I
yeah,
can from the older people in my team. But I love both sides of being challenged. But do they trust me fundamentally? I truly believe that they do. So even though I will say there's things we need to do, if I really tell them, guys, listen, or girls, you guys, we need to do this, they will do it because they trust
mm,
me. Do you see what I mean? Like, and I think
yes.
that's fundamental, trusting
And
the leaders that you have.
yeah, and I think the trust comes a lot from the fact that they will trust you because you also see them. So meaning that
Yes.
they know that sometimes they will tell you like, Leila, trust me. I
Yes.
know that. I got that. And then
Yes.
and then you establish also the trust back that when
Yes.
you will tell them, look, I'm keeping my ground on this one.
Yes.
I respect you, but like I saw you when it was your expertise, and this time I need to be myself. I think there is also this relation where you establish the
100%.
trust.
100%. And I had this feeling that I remember at the beginning of my leadership journey, I was very much about what can I do? How should I be shown,
Mm,
or how should people see me? And then a couple of months after, I was like, no, it's actually about what is the space I'm creating for people. So
mm-hmm,
it's actually not about me as a leader. They will follow me, but it's more about
mm,
what is the space I create for them so
mm-hmm,
they thrive. What are the obstacles I remove so they can do their job? What do I do when I go into rooms and they're not there? How do I talk about them? Do you see what I mean? And
Mm,
and this is about, I truly believe doing good things will come back to you. Do I
mm,
have to make hard decision? I do. Do I have to make decisions where people no, won't necessarily agree? Yeah, I do. But do I
mm,
believe I'm doing it of the right reasons? Yes, I
mm.
definitely do. So I'm also bought into why we're doing it.
I also have this dilemma, and you can tell me if you can relate. You know, as an indirect leader, I and if you build a team around you and that you want to move things and you need to correct coordinate different stakeholder by influence, sometimes if something falls out, you want to be the safety net, you want to be the person that will fill up, you want to be the person, as you were saying, that will figure it out.
Yeah.
And this is a dilemma in which I think I fall way too long in it, and that I'm trying to learn right now. It is like I don't need to do it for the people. It's actually my role to like maybe sometimes let them fall, let us fall. We are a team,
Mm-hmm.
we fall all together, but then
Mm-hmm.
figure it out how we'll learn from it and figure it out, how maybe this cannot end up happening again. I was
Mm-hmm.
the safety net for a bit too long, and now I'm learning also more and more that you will go into leadership. You're not a doers, and you have less and less influence on the execution, but you need to trust the people that they will
Yeah.
do it, but you need
Yeah.
to equip them.
Yeah.
And I think this is a dilemma for the indirect leaders to let go, of the
Yeah.
execution. Like, it
Yeah.
won't be always me. And I
Yeah.
don't know if for you, you completely let go, or if there is sometimes that you still feel you fall again into the trap that, okay, I'll figure it out.
I think actually this is where I think I'm pretty good at letting go. So I think what my strengths are is seeing if those people are able to do it. So I can very quickly spot, okay, this person, that's not their biggest strength. I will
Mm-hmm.
find a person that can connect with this person.
Yeah.
So it won't be a pitfall. Do you see
Mm.
what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
You will
he or
connect the
she,
dots.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I foresee it. So I have a feeling of, okay, I get it. You have the ambition, but I know for sure this area, there's some tweaking we need to do. Okay. But this person over here in this can help him or
Yeah.
her with this specific thing. So I try to connect people way more so they also feel empowered that they're still
Yeah.
doing it. It's not me picking up for them.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I believe that my role is just putting the right boundaries around them for them to be able to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Did you had at some point we were discussing with, I think, the second guest, she was saying that a lot of the part of the leadership is actually to learn to unlearn, because if the world is changing, and if you think that then maybe you will be blindsided. Was
Hmm.
there something that you had to unlearn, maybe a mindset or something you thought needed to happen this way to be more effective?
I think there's one thing I had to unlearn was that the way that you could become, the way that you were a leader, what if I looked at leaders that were strong leaders had certain characters. So I had to unlearn
Mm,
that I had to do it in my own way. For me, that's what I had to unlearn. I'm not the type who feel like I need to know everything 100%. I need to surround myself with the people. So
mm-hmm,
together we know 100%. I
mm-hmm,
individually don't. That is again back to I don't reach my number. The
mm,
people that I work together with reach our numbers. And I
mm,
think it comes back to I played soccer, so football, my whole year. Not
mm,
American football, but traditional
yeah,
soccer, football. So there you can be one star, but you will never be able to win a game alone.
without the team, yeah,
Yeah.
of course,
But if you compare that to basketball, you
yeah,
can have one star and the team doesn't have necessarily to be really good and you can still win a game. But in
yeah,
soccer, you cannot. Doesn't matter how good you are. You cannot win a game. You can't be defense and offense at the same time. The field is too big for that.
mm,
So I think that's developed my mindset to how I lead. So
mm-hmm,
I know no individual role is important. Like but the role collectively is what's
mm-hmm.
going to make us reach what we need to reach.
Super, I really love that. Maybe also a question towards, the collective, and something maybe I struggle with, and you can see how is it for you. But
Hmm.
this is about office politics. You need to navigate that, and this is something more and more you will go up. You need to. I don't know. To be honest, I didn't learn it yet on my
Yeah.
list. But I see that maybe also for you, you navigate between a global layer, a regional
Yeah.
layer, a
Yeah.
local layer,
Yeah.
different internal, external. Did you see that you had some challenges with how you need to navigate that?
I think for me, and it's actually funny that you are asking it because often people are like, oh, but she's really good at politics or he's really good at politics. For me, it's not really politics. For me, it's clarity. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it's clarity on I'm very aware of the battles that I don't necessarily have to take, but I'm also extremely mindful of the ones that I will take. And I think when
Mm,
you are very in tune on what's important for you will take those battles. So for me, I don't think about it as, okay, here I need to be political. For me, it's battles that is really important to win or to articulate why I'm saying it the way, then I will speak and I will be very open and I will give my feedback. For me, and that's why we need to demand, like, we need to take like the politics away from that because for me, it's
mm,
more clarity. There are areas where I will not put up a fight,
mm-hmm.
but there will be areas where I will put my all into it.
Yeah, and maybe then is a follow-up question on, in the business sometimes everything feels urgent. Like
Yes.
fire, fire, fire. And you
Yes.
find yourself, especially in the sales area, being a firefighter, at the end of the day you want to put your application.
Yes.
And then it's about also what you were saying about clarity and picking your battles. And when everything feels urgent, what do you know what matters? What
Mm,
you need to focus on, what you need to delegate, what you need to let go.
yeah. And I think that's where, and this is where it can be really tough sometimes because you get stressed. There is even like there's phones, there is Slack,
Yeah.
there is messages, there's so many things that we're online and in tune of all the time. I think it's important to also unplug from all of that. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't get confused because often when the ball rolls, it just rolls really fast. And the more you go down a hill, the
Mm-hmm.
quicker it goes, right? So you just need to sometimes unplug yourself from the situation and really determine, okay, and I've done that a couple of times as well, be like, okay, but this is what's important for me. This is what
Mm-hmm.
I believe. And maybe in the beginning, they won't be like, "Yeah, you're doing the right thing, but in the end, they will. So you need to
Mm-hmm.
focus on the end goal of why you're doing it. And I think it comes back again, what I said before about clarity, being very clear on what is expected from you, but also what is expected from the team, the
Mm-hmm.
leadership. What is it that is the most important? Because, like you said, everything can't be important. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
nothing is important because you
Yeah.
cannot divide your time through everything, right?
Yeah, it's a big notion actually. I feel that, when it's the beginning of the year, everybody talks about like priorities and strategies, but we never think much about like what are we not doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because basically we already had a backlog of what we wanted to do last year, that maybe things we couldn't have the time to achieve, and we always pile up more stuff, more stuff, more stuff, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't have the budget, we don't have the resources. And it's about priority means also figured out what we let go. And I think this is also a leadership trait, is like, when do you decide to pivot, and when do you decide to also let go of an opportunity? I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a hard skills to get.
I think it is, but if you're not checking in, we actually had a meeting with the leadership team the other day where I asked exactly that question. I said, what should we stop doing?
Yeah.
Because if we keep on saying, okay, now we're looking into next year, we want to do this, we want to do this, okay, that's great. But what should we then let go of? Because
Or
we
who is
can't.
doing it? Who
Yeah.
do I
Who, yeah,
bring
yeah.
to do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Exactly. But it's one of those things we need to constantly reevaluate. Okay, if we're taking something new on, we need to let go of something else,
Mm.
right? So we can't keep on putting things on.
Yeah, because I see it also with the sales world. At some point, they reach the limit, and they always says, "Okay, but you have all these new leads and this new prospect and opportunities, but who is doing the core business? Because it's also me, and
Mm,
they don't run by itself. So
no.
if I cannot handle that, we cannot handle the novelty. And sometimes
Yeah.
I see a bit of a friction between like we want to chase all of this new growth, but we need to also remember that the core is not driving itself. And
Yeah.
this is where there can be like bigger fires, because
Yeah.
if you have one fire, it can cause so much discomfort and you know l- losing a new
Very
deal.
true. Very, very true. I think yeah, I think you're completely right. But I think it's also about putting process in place then. for what is it you have to do. Oftentimes, I think people leave it up to individuals, figure it out. What
Mm-hmm.
if figure it out? And then everybody's trying to figure out a problem that maybe goes across half of the organization, right?
Yeah.
So why don't we just put in place, okay, when you have this situation, this is the process that you need to follow. These are the people that will be assigned to these kind of process. Do A, B, and C. And if it demands
Yes.
more than A, B, and C, then come escalate it, right? But we are not making, and this is where we need to make it easier for people to do their job. And I think AI comes in and can actually play a really
Yeah.
important
Automation.
role in that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm following you totally. I wanted to discuss also because I think you have a very good communication style, and as you were saying, it's a passion of yours to do also public speaking.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how did you, yeah, develop this communication style to influence people without having to use your authority? Because now you have the luxury to have authority, but I don't have the feeling that you're using it much. I think
No.
you use the rest to communication to
Yeah.
push people towards the right direction.
Yeah, yeah. I think my style is definitely everybody knows where I stand and everybody knows what my values are, what my core beliefs is. There is no doubt about that whatsoever, but I'm very transparent. I don't have to have a discussion with you to articulate what I think is right or wrong in certain situation, and people respect that because it's more of a one-to-one communication.
Mm-hmm.
I demand that people come in with the best effort, but that's something that I take before we get to the situation where they need to perform. Some people, they would let them do whatever they need and then they come to the big meeting and then they fail. For me, it's like, no, then I need to do my job before we get to that meeting to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that they are well prepared. They'll have the question in advance. So again looking back at, you need to be the coach that
And
makes
to
sure
prepare
that,
them.
yeah, exactly. That is your role. So if they are in a meeting where they haven't been able, they flunked, then I
Mm,
haven't prepared them well enough going into that meeting.
mm. Especially because, the very first episode was about cross-cultural communication, and sometimes you can be the best communicator in your own country,
Hmm.
and then you're placed towards different audience or different countries, and then your style is not exactly the expected style. So I think it also need a translator that can coach you towards, okay, I see that you're trying to deliver this message, but look, it doesn't land. So maybe we can tweak a bit, keep your energy, but tweak a bit this part and this part for the message to land.
Yeah.
I had the chance to have like someone that gave me a feedback about communication that helped me a lot. Because
Hmm.
when I was like younger in my career, when I had senior leadership, I wanted to tell them everything. Like
Hmm.
I wanted to kind of prepare them. So I wanted to tell them about all of the detail. And this person was like enough open to tell me like, look, I know you did your job, but I'm at a level where I don't need all of
Yeah, yeah.
details actually. And she was really, sometimes we say, oh, you need to adapt your communication to your audience, but
Hmm.
really this is the time that I understood how does it mean, meaning
Hmm.
that usually now when someone asks me something, I never start talking. I always say to them a question back: what are you interested to know about?
Yeah,
I can give you this angle, this angle, this angle,
yeah,
and then they tell me more where I need to go. And then this gives me an indication of, are they interested by the detail, the non-detail, this area. And this helped me a lot. So I think
yeah.
maybe you can coach also towards communication.
100%. I think what is most important in those kind of situation is you understand the people that you are speaking to. Whether that's cross-functional people, they get
Mm-hmm.
triggered by different things. They're measured differently than core people in the core business, right? Execs are different. Like if you have an understanding, if you don't know the people, then oftentimes you can see it by the roles that they're at. And by that, you can be able to articulate your message to that. It's the exact same with your customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go out to a customer and just tell broadly, if you don't tailor it to their industry, their business, their KPIs, it will fall through, right? And this is the
Mm.
same internally as it is externally.
Thanks so much. I mean, we always end up with the same three questions. They are a bit more rapid, but the first one is, did you learn one skill early on that you still reuse later in your career?
I think what I learned early on, I probably learned that in my soccer career when I was really, really young. I was probably the type of person that people would normally attract to. So I was
Mm-hmm.
really good at saying, okay, let's do this, or let's do that, or let's go in this direction, let's go in this direction. And I think that's really it's a huge advantage for me today because people I can articulate so people would follow in the
Mm,
direction that I believe we should go into. And I think it's a skill set that I value quite a lot.
yeah, the motivation part, what you were
Yes,
saying
exactly.
about before.
Yeah.
Super. The second question, a lot of people that will listen to this podcast are either emerging leaders, aspiring leaders, younger leaders, or, for example, leaders that wants to take a next step in their career, maybe
Hmm.
globally. And I wonder if you would have like an advice for these categories of people.
Yeah. I got an advice early on that I still stick to, and it says like this: if you don't make your own plan, you're going to be part of somebody else's plan.
Yeah.
Right? So have a plan. It doesn't necessarily have, like I said, there have been jobs where I didn't get them for some reason or it didn't happen. It all makes sense when you look back, but at least you'll need to have a plan of which direction is it you want to do. And maybe it's challenging yourself, like it is for me, doing something that learning something new. But whatever that is, you need to figure out what that is. So you are the one in control of your own career path and not
Hmm.
somebody else.
Hmm. I can echo that a bit with, I mean, I see on what scale you say it, but maybe for a lot of our listener, you can also fall rapidly into the trap of doing what your mentors want you to do,
Mm.
meaning that you estimate so much their opinion that if they project something on you, you think this is the right decision to take, and maybe deep dives it's not what you want, and maybe being bold enough to also say, I'm taking your advice, but I will need to follow my own path. It's also
Yeah, of
something that I
course.
think it's will be
Of
key.
course. I also think when I look at it, there is a difference between advisors and mentors,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Advisors is somebody you can go to, you can get their feedback, you will figure out whether you will take it or not, or
Mm,
and mentors is somebody that is very close to you. They know what you want, they'll drive you, they'll help you, they'll open doors for you when you're not there,
mm,
those kind of thing. And you need to also distinguish between when it is an advisor you're asking for advice and when is it
yeah.
actually a true mentor.
Yes.
Right? We call it mentor, but oftentimes it's advisors, not mentors. Mentors when it goes both ways. And
Yes.
I stick out for you. Do you see?
Yes.
That's a real mentor for me.
Totally. Look, we arrive at the end. So the last question, I'm an avid reader. I love nonfiction book, but you can still propose something else. So in case you have a book recommendation, nonfiction, fiction, and if it's not a book, it can be whatsoever, documentary, a movie, whatsoever. What would it be? Sometimes in business, leaders gift a book when they leave a team or arrive in a team. So it could also
Mm,
be um, this as an inspiration.
I think for me, it's probably what I'm really into right now is podcasts. So I listen
You
to
can propose
quite a lot
podcasts,
of
yeah.
podcasts, yeah. And I listen to one called Diary of a CEO.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I absolutely love that. I love it because there's so many diverse people on that podcast, so many thoughts, so many thought leaders. It doesn't have to be on, they can both be on business, it can be on economy, it can be on health, whatever it is.
yeah.
I just love,
Society.
yeah, exactly. I just love the adversity of the people that gets on those shows and the thought process and their stories, their personal stories. So I absolutely love those kind of things. So I would
Totally.
recommend that.
Super. But look, it was really interesting. I will redirect if people want to connect with you. I guess the best is again your LinkedIn.
Yes.
And then if it's Salesforce, of course, I think they can make their way naturally to
Yes.
the company. Good. But it was super nice to have you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.